What's up, folks? Haven't done a roadside rant in a little bit, except for I did kind of do a My Bernie story for McKerracher for all recently, but I wanted to do something that was more focused on theory here, specifically Being in Time, the book of fundamental ontology or phenomenology by Martin Heidegger. The concepts developed in Division 1 of Being in Time that changed philosophy in the 20th century forever for anyone who read it, right? So Rorty, the pragmatist, the American liberal, he famously said that, if you haven't read, Heidegger, then you're not doing philosophy in the 21st or in the 20th century. Derrida was a huge Heideggerian. Foucault was a closet Heideggerian. He died with like Heidegger under his pillow, and admitting that he'd always been kind of like working with Heideggerian categories. But I think that Derrida might have been one of the most serious inheritors of that project, as well as critics. Obviously, everybody who inherits the Heideggerian project, who reads it, who is forever their philosophy of science, for instance, is forever impacted, remains critical, and different people who inherit that project are critical for valid reasons, and other ones for what seems like probably straw man reasons or ad hominem reasons. But for instance, Bourdieu basically rewrites a big part of Being in Time in his own work, and then when he critiques Heidegger, his critiques seem to miss the mark. That's a complaint that's very common from Heideggerians. But anyway, when Derrida inherits the project of Being in Time, he popularizes this idea of the metaphysics of presence. And I think that's very important to think about, the metaphysics of presence. What is the metaphysics of presence, and how does that factor into critical media theory, specifically the ways in which the world that we live in now and the forms of mediation on our consciousness and perception through the various forms of media that we use to consume and perceive the world, how that frames our consciousness, right? How the metaphysics of presence ties into all of that, into how something like Twitter or reading and writing or any other sort of medium or media is going to shape us, is that we take to be what is most absolutely real, that is to say metaphysics, we take to be what is most absolutely real that which is present. There is this bias, this fetishization, this pedestalization of the immediacy of presence. And presence ontology, or metaphysics of presence, either way you say it, is that it's that if you don't see it, if it's not constantly something that you're revisiting and seeing and thinking through in a variety of different ways, then it ceases to be real, right? Exploitation and expropriation in periphery parts of the world, whether within your own nation or outside of it. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. It might as well not be real. And then if it's made real, then it's made real by certain interests that need you to see it in certain ways. And in order to keep it alive in your consciousness, it will be reified in certain ways. How does this skew the reality? How does this separate us from the real? And how does this become spectacle and simulation? With Heidegger in Being in Time, presence at hand, the thing that is immediately present at hand, that is a concept in the work that is juxtaposed to readiness to hand. Readiness to hand is that which is implicitly known, like in an embodied way, like the knowledge of how to use a hammer or the ways of mapping the future and working through human projects are revealed or disclosed through ready-to-hand forms of knowledge, which is to say like implicit embodied experience, as opposed to conscious explicit knowledge, which is always predicated on presence ontology, whatever is present at hand. And so this presence at hand gets juxtaposed to readiness to hand, but those two are two of the three main modes of being that Heidegger is focusing on. The other one is existence. Existence is being in the world. The world is an emergent property of all of the different ways of understanding the world that are disclosed through the sciences and the arts. And the world as an emergent experience is one that we're always already thrown into. It's one that we always already are indoctrinated into. It's that you never were able to understand or see the world without language or without being already acclimated into a media ecology that has mediated consciousness and experience, because consciousness is not just aware of whatever is immediately present. Immediately present is not only what is actually conscious to you, but also media mediates experience and makes it accessible when it's not actually immediately there. Media brings to us that which is not immediately there, and by bringing something forward, other things are left out of the picture. And so this is the importance of thinking about presence ontology and media theory. And as a quick little, like, how does this factor into your life? That desire to keep your presence alive in the lives of others, to remind other people that you think about them, or that you are still alive and doing well, on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on your Twitter. These are alienated forms of trying to reach out and stay present to others, because if you're not, you'll fade away to them, as the algorithms will bury you from their consciousness, and everything else that is made immediately present through mediation, right? It seems immediately present, but it's mediated through these algorithms, through these platforms, through this corporate media complex. As that happens, our desires to be less alienated from one another in a world where we are so individualized and subjectivized as neoliberal subjects, that desire is exploited and by these corporations that are basically trying to sell you distraction and sell you a feeling of community in exchange for your eyeballs that they can then trade as commodities to advertisers, who then obviously have their own interests in trying to cultivate you as part of their demographic. And so that's a crash course on critical media theory, Heidegger, Derrida, and presence at hand, or presence ontology. I'm not a Derridian. I don't really understand Derrida in as deep a way as I understand Division 1 of Being in Time. And so, I have read some Derrida, obviously, but if you're a Derridian and you think that there's more to it than that, please let me know in the comment sections. And otherwise, if you have questions, comments, concerns, or just want to shoot the shit, make sure to get in the comment sections and talk. But don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget, this is patron funded. Thank you to my patrons. You all rule. Take care. Goodbye. Thanks for being with me on this beautiful overcast day here on the big island of Hawaii. Peace.